Okay, so let's get started. So my name is Morgan, and welcome to Shorthand, the beautifully simple digital storytelling platform. So today I'll be taking you through how to create a shorthand story using a lot of different sections and some of our key features. And then we'll finish with a Q&A after the demo, which will last for about 45 minutes. So the whole session will last for about an hour. So after the webinar, the replay will be emailed out to you, and I'll also include some resources as well. So if you have any questions, then please do pop them into the Q&A box as we go along. I won't get to them until the end of the session, but yeah, feel free to pop them in as they come up. I'll also prompt you at the end if you have any, to give you a chance to ask more questions as well. Okay, so there's so much that you can create with shorthand. You can really tailor your content to your specific needs, whether you're building in-depth reports, digital magazines, feature stories, or editorials. There are countless ways to adapt your content to suit the story that you're going to be telling. So we're constantly innovating as well. So this year alone, we've launched 7 feature launches. So there's always something new to explore and experiment with as well. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing in today's session. As I mentioned, we're going to be building a digital magazine. So I'll just run you through this so you can see what it looks like. Yeah, so the digital magazine that we're going to be creating today contains many different section types, many different features. We'll also go through some best practices as we build the story. The principles I'll demonstrate can be applied to any use case. So don't worry if this isn't exactly what you're planning to use shorthand for. And there we have our digital magazine. Great, so let's begin. I'm going to head over to my dashboard. So what you can see here is a number of shorthand stories on my dashboard. That's what these little tiles are. And to begin, we can click the green New Story button. A new story is, or a shorthand story is a single web page experience. We can also create projects by clicking Projects and New Project. And a project links multiple shorthand stories together to create like a microsite or an ebook or a multi-issue magazine. You can also create collections in shorthand, which is just a way to inject an onward journey for your reader at the end of a story. So for simplicity, I will start with a new story by clicking the green New Story button. If we have multiple teams in our workspace, we then select the team that we want our story to go in. And then we have several options to start. We can start by using one of these templates. Templates are fully editable. You can swap out the text, the images, change things, and really customize them to work for you. They also serve as a really fantastic source of inspiration when you're starting out using shorthand. We can also import. So there's a little import button down the bottom left. If we click import, we can import from the web, or we can import from PDF. So this just enables us to get our content or our copy and our images into shorthand really quickly. And shorthand will auto-generate a layout by harnessing the power of AI. So this is a wonderful way to save time and kickstart your story design. And finally, you can start from scratch with a blank story. So a blank story just really enables you to tailor your story, add the sections you want to suit the visual narrative that you're trying to tell. So let's do that. We'll start with a blank story. Okay, so your story will be made up of sections. These are the building blocks of a shorthand story. So whilst most people start with the title section, you do have the flexibility to start with any of these section types, like the reveal section or the scrollmation section, to really add in some movement and animation in your title section. We are going to start with a title section, which I'm going to add. And then I'm also going to add in a text section to my story. I did that by just clicking in the thumbnail menu bar here and clicked Add Section. Okay, so you can add images to your shorthand story either through the Unsplash integration, where you have access to over millions of royalty-free images, or you can upload images directly from your file. So I am going to do that by clicking Edit Background Media. And I've got my images over here, and I'm just dragging and dropping that into shorthand. I also wanted to quickly mention that in the title section, you can also include video. That's background video, and that means that it autoplays, it loops, and it's muted. So it's like decorative video that sits behind the text. You can also add a 3D image, and this just adds a whole new level of dynamism and depth to your stories. So with our image, we have the widescreen view here and the tall screen view. Now we can add a caption and alt text, which we always recommend you add alt text because it describes the media for screen readers, and it's one way to ensure that your stories are accessible and meet the web accessibility guidelines. Having accessible stories also helps with SEO. So I'll click Save Changes there. First of all, the text in my title section is not that readable. So I'm going to go into the section options and just show you the overlay opacity. I'm going to bring it up to about 30%. That looks good. Just to demonstrate the overlay opacity, I'll just pop it up to 80% for a moment and show you the different overlay types. There's a full overlay, which you see now. You can have it at the bottom, top, left, right. Have a vignette, or you can have it at both the top and the bottom. So I will leave it on full and keep it at 30%. So for this title section, I'm going to add a logo as the title. So to add in an image, I'm just going to hover above the block of text, and we get some options here to insert different elements to our story. We can insert media, a rich embed, a button, a divider line, which is like a decorative element, insert space to give some extra padding to your section, insert a table, or some HTML if you want to customize your story. We're going to insert media. That looks quite large, so I'm just going to reduce the size by clicking on the little minus button. Okay, seeing as we don't have our title there, we can remove that. And I'm going to change the subheading. Now, before I go any further, I want to change the theme of the story. To do that, I can click on the little paintbrush icon. And there's a number of standard shorthand themes. And these themes just contain different fonts, different color palettes, different stylistic elements to them. And if you have a shorthand subscription, which includes a custom branded theme, then that's where you'll find your custom branded theme. And your custom theme just means that it will have your brand colors, brand fonts, your logo, your favicon, any custom code that you need in your theme, such as Google Analytics tracking or anything like that. I'm going to set this to Shorthand Traditional. Okay, so before we go any further, I also want to look at the story header, which is this white bar at the top of my title section. We can just hover over the left-hand side of the bar and we get that little cog icon, which opens up the section options. We can remove the header if we want. We can remove the logo. We can add a reading progress bar, which just signposts the reader to how far they are in the story. And we can also change the color. So I'll make sure my text is black, and we could change the background color, for example. And the reading progress bar can be changed in its color as well. To the right of the header, we've got social icons. Now these are social sharing icons, and it enables your story readers to reshare your story across their social media channels. Next, I'm going to add in a logo to the header. Brilliant. So now I have my the full created digital magazine here. So let's just take a look at it. We've just recreated the title section. We have recreated the header section, but we don't yet have any story navigation in it. This is a simple text section. So rather than show you how to create that, this is quite similar to the title section. So we don't need to create that either. But this is a text section I'd like to show you how to create. So this is the editor's letter. Okay. So magazines often include a welcome letter from the editor. With this letter, we are going to do a 2-column layout. But first of all, I'll just show you that if you've got 1 column, you can move it around on the page. You can make it wider. And you can add many more blocks of text. You can delete the text as well. And you can add another column. You can add a second text column or a scrollmation column. So I'll go into scrollmation in more detail soon, but for now, let's just add a second text column. Now I'm just over here getting my text. So I'm copying and pasting some text from over here. Okay, so there we have our text. Now I'm going to do some formatting to this text. I'm going to click on the little P icon, P for paragraph, and you'll see there's a number of different formatting options. We could make a block quote, a drop cap, which I'm going to do. We could also create a numbered list, a bulleted list, an indent, which I'll show you, or a breakout box. Okay, so I'm now going to add an image inline of the editor just to make it more personable. So I'm going to hover underneath the block of text, and in the same way that we added the logo to the title section, we are going to add an image here. Might reduce the size down a little, and then rather than the default centering, I'm going to position it to the left. There we go. And I'll pop this in my navigation. Great, so where are we up to in our magazine? The next section, I really like this. It's a chapter head effect. So I'm going to show you how to create that. And then I'm going to show you how to create this, which is a background scrollmation section. So let's head back to the editor. First of all, I'm going to add a text over media section. And then I'm going to add that scrollmation section. Let's start with the text over media section. I'll pop my text in there. Oops, I just copied and pasted, not just the text. Okay, so we've got our text in there. Now, if we go into the section options, there's quite a few different things we can do. We can have a full layout. We can have half width media. We can have text only. I'm going to go to the full width media. We can also change the height of the section. It can be 150% height, full height, half, or third height. I'll set it to third height. Now I'm going to change the image by clicking Edit Background Media. And popping in my image. Now, at this stage, it looks quite different from what it looks like in our final polished version. So we need to make some changes in the section options to reflect how it looks when it's finished. So I'll go back into the section options. First of all, I'm going to set the scroll effects on the image. It's currently set to sticks, which means the image sticks in the background while the text scrolls over it. I want it to scroll, so the image and the text to scroll together. One more change we need to make in Edit Background Media. Now, this is a really handy feature to know about. There's a little Set Focus button here. So you can change the focal point of the image to wherever you'd like it to be. And so now we have that chapter head looking exactly like the chapter head in our final story. We should also look at the focal point for the mobile screen as well. So I'm going to change that focal point just a little bit because I would like some of the base of the image, but I would also like the car and the tool screen view. So that will look slightly different on mobile. We can have a look at how that looks in mobile in just a moment. Okay. So let's move on to our scrollmation section. So a scrollmation section is a column of text, and then you have images that transition as we scroll through the text. And so those image transitions are powered by the amount of text in that column. So I'm going to add 2 images of a car in different positions. So Edit Background Media. You can delete the images one by one or delete all. I'm going to add in my images. So as we scroll down, the images will just switch seamlessly and add a little bit of motion to the story. Hey, I'm just going to copy my text. Okay, so next I'm also going to add an inline image within my text column. So hovering between the 2 text blocks, insert media. And I'll add in my image. Now this is a portrait orientation image, but I want to crop it. So to do so, I'm going to click on the little circle icon with 3 dots in it, which is Manage Media. Here I can crop it to a circle, a square, or landscape orientation. You can also give it corner radiuses and also animate the images, which we'll have a little look at later on as well. Okay, now to differentiate this section from others, I'm also going to add in my own color. So I'll go back to section options. We can have a light background as it is, or a dark background, or we can change the color of the background entirely. We can use any one of our theme colors, or we can add a color. So I'm going to add in a color by popping in, oops, that was the text. I won't do that. I want to do the background color. And let's keep our text black. Here we go. So we now have our first scrollmation section. Now I also want to change the font here. Heading back to the finished magazine, there's the scrollmation section we just created. And now we have another scrollmation section, which is quite similar to the one above. It's got 2 images that transition and a column of text with an inline image. So what we could do to save time, we could either duplicate the section that we've just created, and it had different orientations. So the scrollmation was on the right-hand side. And then we could, swap out the images and the text for the text in the section. Another really handy thing that we could do is, let's say you're going to be using a section similar to this in a lot of your content going forward. So what you can do is you can click on this little star icon next to the section thumbnail, and you can save it as a section template. You can save it in your own workspace, so it's only accessible by you, or you can save it to the overall workspace, so all your colleagues can also access the template. You can select a category, so you can put it into a folder, and then you just click Save. So with the templates, there's also shorthand templates. So there's many different section templates that you can use. Let's say you want to inject a timeline into your story, or a table or a grid, maybe a quote or a map. There's so many different section templates here. For now, I'm going to get one of my section templates that I created earlier. Great. So we now have that section in our story. You'll notice that this section also has a little spacer here. So that's adding a little bit of a buffer to the end of the section. Great. So moving on. This is another text over media section. So again, really similar to the title section. So we'll skip past creating that. This is another scrollmation section. So next we'll create this, which is a reveal section, which is full screen images that transition as we scroll. You can have text overlays as well, but for this particular effect we're creating, the focus is really on the cards, so I'm not going to add any text. So I'll head back to the shorthand editor. I'm just going to add one of my previous sections to my navigation as well. Okay, so add section. This time it's the reveal section. So this is one of our really popular section types. It can be used in so many different ways. You can really animate images and bring life to them. It can be used for like data visualizations. It can be used to show before and afters, timelines. Yeah, lots of different ways that you can use this section. So I've just deleted the 3 default images in the reveal section, and now I'm adding in my 4 images. The default transition is a fading transition. So I'll just show you how that looks first. So as we scroll, we see a fade, blend and fade into the next image. We're going to set it up slightly differently though. So I'll go back into edit the media. And then you can set the transition type with this little button. So the first transition I'm going to do left to right, down, and right to left. You can also set the speed of the transition as well. There we have our reveal section. Great, so what's next? Another text section with an inline image. And then this section here, which is called the scroll point section. So I'm going to show you how to use this section type to create the effect of a car moving, and then with text over it. Okay, so I'll head back to the editor, add in a scroll point section. So the default image in the scroll point section is of a person sitting on a swing overlooking Paris. The image is to the right because the text is to the left. If we centered the text, then we would get the image would become centered. So what scroll points is it contains just a single image, but you can have multiple highlight areas that the reader can scroll and zoom into. So the first highlight area is we have a close-up on the Eiffel Tower, and then we scroll over to the hot air balloons, and then we have that final image of that we started with. So I'm going to go into edit scroll point frames. I'm going to delete the highlight area, so delete the Eiffel Tower, the hot air balloons, and the final image, and we're just left with our first image, which is the base image. Let's change that base image. Now we have our car. We're going to edit the highlight area and create a shape, which I want my highlight area to be. The highlight area can have a solid outline, can be dashed, flashing, or draw. I'm going to select none. We can also add a label, a text label, and we could add a marker. And we could darken around the highlight area. I want to add a frame. I could either click add frame, or I could duplicate my previous frame, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to edit the highlight area. And I'm going to drag this box along this red line, which is a guideline showing that it's perfectly on the horizontal axis. Now we have motion of the car. Let's just pop our text in, which I'm again copying and pasting. Just make a few changes to the text. Now you'll see that there's a opacity box overlay here. So we want to change that. So if we click into section options, then there's lots of different options here. But we want to change the background opacity. So we could change the color if we wanted, but actually I'm just going to reduce it down to 0 because I want it to just be the white text over the black car. So there's so much you can do with the scroll point section. You can like highlight specific points of a map or image and really dive into those small details with scroll point section. And I'm going to show you another scroll point section in a moment as well, which is really different from this, how it's been used here. Okay, so heading back to our magazine, we've got this beautiful looking section, which is a text section with shaped media. I'll show you how to shape some media shortly. And then we've got this quote section. I'm going to show you how to create this quote section. So we'll click Add Section. We're going to use the text over media section for this as well. You can probably notice that the text over media section is really, really versatile. There's lots of different things that you can do with it. So I'll pop in my text and I just want to change that font. Now in the section options, we'll set it to text only. We can have light text over a dark background or dark text over a light background. I'm going to set my own color. So I want black text and the background color a nice gray. Actually, I want white text. Here we go. Now, going back into the section options, there's some scroll effects. So we can apply these effects to the text. So we can zoom, fade, blur, in and out. So I'm going to zoom in, and fade out, and blur in. I'm also going to add a divider, so that decorative element, making it white, so it's the same color as the text. And I'm also going to add a spacer. I'll just leave that at, might put that at 20%. That just gives some padding to the section. And I'll do the same at the bottom. So insert the divider. And the padding as well. So a really quick and easy way to create an impactful quote that really has some motion and movement. So we then have another text section in the story, and we come to a video section. So I would like to show you how we can use video. So I'm going to add the section, a text over media section. And the type of video, it's that foreground video. So it's the same type that we can add to the title section. Sorry, background video, I should say, which think of it as decorative video. So that is video that autoplays and loops and is muted. So let's add in our video. Okay, now one thing we can do to ensure that our stories are accessible is click on the settings icon, and for autoplay video, we can add a pause button. So down at the bottom of the settings panel, there's a little switch we can toggle on, and the setting just makes background videos compliant with the web accessibility guidelines. So you'll see that, and just at the bottom corner, you can pause the video or play. So if anyone prefers their web experiences to have reduced motion, then that's a great way to create stories that everyone can enjoy. Let me put my text in. I'm going to change the font. Increase the overlay opacity at the back as well. Video can look really cool, and if it's half and half as well. That's quite a nice way to present it. But I'm going to set it as full media. And I'm just going to pop this into my navigation. Okay. You can also add foreground video into Shorthand. You can do that by, let me show you, by adding it into the media section, or also inline in a text column as well. You can have foreground video. And foreground video simply means that the reader can click and play the controls, and and can control the volume as well. Okay. So then we have our second scroll point section, which looks quite different from the one that we just created. So this is one image again, and it has text, and there's a horizontal zoom and a vertical zoom, and horizontal again and vertical. So that's really just exploring different parts of the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a section, and I have that section we just looked at as a template in my workspace. So in the interest of saving time, I'm just going to pop in the template. Now I want to show you how this looks. So I'll click on Edit Scroll Points Frames, and we can have a look at the base image here. So this is something that's just been created in Photoshop. It's just got a white background, and then 5 images, kind of like a photo montage, with some checkered tape kind of placed as a bit of a design feature. So that's how that works. And then the highlight areas. So that's the first highlight area. So you can see that the box is contained over the first image. And then text has been used as well. So that's how the second scroll points section works. Alrighty, so we are nearly at the end of our digital magazine. The next section is this beautiful looking grid section. So I'll show you how to create this. And then at the bottom is a footer. This is created really simple with a 2-column text section, and it's got buttons included in it as well. So let's create the grid section. So grid section default comes with 3 cells. You can have up to 4 cells across. You can have multiple rows, and you can have like different number of cells in each row as well. I'll just go back to having 3. Now I will grab some text. I'm going to change the background color as well in the section options. There's lots of we can get quite granular with the colors in the grid section, so we could change the color of the cells as well if we wanted. I'll just leave the text that's in each cell as it is, just to save time. And now I'm going to pop in my images. Okay, so we're going to shape this media. So if I go into Manage Media, we could add a corner radius, small, medium, or large. Or we could add a custom corners, which is what I'm going to do. So click on custom corners, and I'm going to give the bottom of the image some curve. Now, I was just making these changes to one image, but they're reflected on all the images. And that's because I had this toggled on, apply to section media. If I didn't have that on, it would only apply to the image that I was working on. Okay, and now under Manage Media, we can also add some animation. So we could set the images to fade, zoom, slide, rotate as well. I'm going to set them to slide. And I'm going to set the speed to slow. Great. So we have come to the end of the sections that I'm going to show you how to use in the digital magazine. There is a special bonus section, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But before I do that, I just want to show you how you can preview your story in terms of how it's going to look when it's published. And you can do that by clicking on this green preview button. You can preview your story on mobile, or you can preview on tablet, or you can preview on desktop. Now you've seen most of the sections that I have created, but I'm going to use the navigation to head towards the end of the story, just to show you that grid section that I just created. Yeah, you can see those images kind of sliding down the page, which is quite fun. Okay, so yeah, there is like a bonus section that I wanted to talk about, and that is a section called the charts section. Now, charts is a brand new section type, which we're really excited about at Shorthand. So it's all about where data meets storytelling. So you can turn complex numbers into clear, compelling narratives, and you can have beautiful, customizable charts. You can have pie, bar, donut, and line charts. And here's some examples on screen of the different charts that you can create. So I'm just going to quickly pop back to my story editor and show you a chart section. It's a section template, which I just created earlier. So I'll go into my templates and pop in a chart just to see how a chart could work in this story. So this shows preferred driving destinations. So this is a donut chart. Now, if we go into edit the chart data, edit the base data, now the first thing you do when you're creating a chart is upload your CSV file. So bring that data into the section. And then we could select the chart type. So let's make it a pie chart, for example. And then we have a pie chart. I think I preferred it as a donut though. You might have noticed that I used a donut chart earlier on to talk about the agenda as well. So yeah, we're very excited about the chart section here at Shorthand. Okay, so we have now got time for any questions that you have. So feel free to pop questions into the Q&A box. If you can't remember your question now, or if you think of something later, then please just drop us an email. You can contact us at success@shorthand.com. So I'll just take a look to see if there's any questions. Okay, so there's a few questions here, which is fantastic. So someone has just asked, can we have access to the recording of the webinar? Yeah, absolutely. So we will share the recording within the next couple of days. We'll share the recording and also some other helpful resources. So yeah, watch out for that in your inbox. Someone's asked, is it possible to upload fonts, for example, from Adobe? Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of ways that you could use your Adobe fonts in your Shorthand stories. If you have a plan that has a custom branded theme, then you could add your Adobe fonts in that way. You can also add fonts using CSS. So there's the little CSS panel. And there's actually a really useful help doc, which there's a little question mark next to the publish button. If you open that and we search fonts, there's a helpful help doc which talks you through the steps to add additional fonts via CSS. Someone's asked, can you provide a link to learn how to build our own template? Yeah, absolutely. So let me. So in the Help Center section templates, so this talks about the different types of templates that there are available, like the shorthand section templates, personal section templates, and custom workspace section templates. And yeah, it talks about how to create those as well. So I'll make sure that we include that in the resources that we send out to you. Okay, is there any more questions? So okay, so do imported images need to be a specific size? Let me just go back. Yeah, so basically when you add an image, let's say you're adding an image to a text over media section. When you go into edit background media, you can then click on the media guide, which will tell you all about media guidelines, for example. So we recommend a full screen landscape image. And we always recommend JPEGs as well, for most of the time. Sometimes PNGs can be useful if you need to have sort of a transparent background, like the logos that I added to this story had a transparent background, so they were PNGs. But yeah, so with your JPEG images as well, Shorthand kind of compresses them to suit the device that the reader is reading the story on. So if someone is reading your story on a mobile device compared to like really large screen, then they're going to get served up a smaller size on the mobile. Yeah, so that's a little bit of helpful information about media guidelines. It also says that right here in the panel as well, so recommended JPEG and the pixel dimensions as well. So every section has its own options. I think that question might be referring to the image sizing. So yeah, I mean, basically within Shorthand, you have the landscape orientation and then the portrait orientation. So, and they're the same size. The only section where it's really a different size is the scroll point section. So if we go pop in a scroll point section and look at the image, we've got the recommended image sizes here, 4096 times 2160 pixels. So that's a different size compared to the other like landscape or portrait images used in Shorthand. Oh, this is a great question. So what are your top 3 best practice tips for using Shorthand? So one of the tips would be to really plan out your story before you start using Shorthand. So get to know Shorthand, get to know how you can use all the different section types. But before you start creating your story, kind of sketch it out in thumbnails about, how it's going to come together. Then you're not kind of working in the dark and you have an idea and a theme already in your head of how your story is going to look. So that's one great tip. Another great tip, and I'd just like to point you towards our website. If you click on Learn and then the Craft magazine, we recently published a data deep dive about what's working in digital content. And our data scientists crunched the numbers on over 50,000 Shorthand stories to find out what's working well. So interestingly, mobile versus desktop, so you can get to know who you should be designing your stories for, how long your story should be, what story you should put in, what you should put in your story. So I would really recommend having a read through this data report to find out what works in Shorthand and use those learnings to implement into your stories. So I'll make sure that we share this report as one of the resources as well. And another best practice tip, I would say, is to always ensure that your stories are accessible. And I'm going to point you towards another help doc called the Accessibility Checklist, which I'll also share with you. So this accessibility checklist just takes you through all the different elements of your story to ensure that your stories are accessible. As I mentioned earlier, this will also help you with SEO as well. So I think that's my third best practice tip. Okay. So someone's said, I've played around with Shorthand a fair bit, and a lot of the time I get frustrated with how it looks. Do you have any tips? Should I use templates as a base? Great question. So if I head back to the dashboard, I would recommend, using templates, absolutely. So let's open up one of the templates. I'm going to do this one here. So it can just give you an idea of how your story could look. And you could use elements of the story. It doesn't matter if you're not creating a story about sunglasses, because you can switch out all of the images, and it can just give you an idea for how your content can come together. And Shorthand is designed to be a really simple and easy to use tool so that you can create really stunning content very quickly. So it is, it is a simple interface compared to something like an Adobe product, which has a lot more details to it. So someone's asked, do you have an example of a 3D image? Okay, so what I'll do is we'll head back to my story that I was working on. And then I'm going to add a text over media section. And I'll go into the media library, the Unsplash integration, and I'm going to look for an image of a luxury car. I'll use this one here. And then just within the edit background media, you can also click generate 3D image. And save those images. Okay, so it'll take around about a minute or so for the 3D image to generate. So while we're doing that, I'm just going to change the text here. And we can see that the image is still processing just by the little processing media bar on the top right hand corner here. So you can add a 3D image, you can add it to text over media section, which we're doing now. You can also add it to the title section. There is different ways that you can apply effects to the 3D image as well. So now our image has generated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this text depth slider down. And now we've effectively nestled the text. I'll just add another section at the end so you can see the movement properly. So now we've nestled that text in between the foreground and in front of the background. So that's quite a fun effect. Within the section options, you can also really control how you want the 3D to work. You can switch over the dolly, zoom, pan, and tilt to get some really cool effects. Yeah, so that is the end of the session today. So thank you everyone so much for joining. Like I mentioned, we'll share the recording and we'll share a bunch of other resources and some resources that have also come up in the Q&A as well. Thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.